Hey, welcome everyone to our February working session. So to start off, Jason's work, so we will just pivot to old business, until our speaker shows up. So there's no old business on the new business.
Step right along.
You're,
All right. Yes, we've got a page and a half agenda, sort of working from the bottom up, motion 8. This is, we've done these before sometimes. This is related to PennDOT's policy that they are not responsible for enclosed surface water drainage facilities in a PennDOT right of way, that it is the municipality's responsibility to maintain them, even though you need to apply for a permit from PennDOT to dig up the road and get to it along. You'll hear more about that maybe at ALOM or other times. But when you do have new construction like we do here, and somebody wants to put the pipe in for the first time, PennDOT won't sign an HOP agreement with that private property owner because they want the municipality, in this case the borough, to be the one that they're dealing with and who is responsible for the fight. So they do have a form indemnification agreement between the borough and the property owner. We have tweaked it over the years for a number of other projects, but it acknowledges that the borough will be a co-applicant on the HOP. The homeowner will be responsible for following the plans and doing the construction, and will be responsible for it. And because this is recorded against the property, this agreement runs with the land. They'll continue to be responsible for it. So if something goes wrong with the pipe, it's property owner's responsibility, not the borough's. In other situations where we don't have these agreements, it falls to the borough to replace. So we put this in place. Last one we did, I think, was for the Willow Ridge. That was like a developer, and it was their pond coming out into the road or something. It was a little different because we were going to be eventually taking over that level of infrastructure. This one is a single family residence, not a land development, therefore it's a grading permit and a building permit. And they just needed a place for the water to leave the property, and it goes into and through the right. So I don't know, Tim, if you've had discussions with it. We've gone back and forth for some time just on the grading and others. I mean, and did you share them a copy?
Yeah, they have that process to get.
So that is motion 8. Questions on that one? Moving up, we've got our general provisions. I think we'll be talking about the delegates later for the MRM workers' comp. You do get to go up and accept a check sometimes at ALOM or Attack or one of the many. Not anymore?
No,
Oh, no.
They don't have their meeting at ALOM anymore, and when they do have their meeting, they don't hand out the
They
check.
don't anymore?
I'm not doing it then.
That's
I'm gonna
it.
Check.
That's less responsibility. No more passports. Or license plate registrations. What's going on? So that's sort of. Jim could talk about the scholarship golf outing, and then the subdivision application is with respect to Deerfield Estates. This is a minor subdivision, so it does not go in front of the planning commission, or simple subdivision is subject to review by the borough engineer and by it. Should be it. The planning commission had a conditional use in front of them for a solar array, but there were a number of issues. So they've decided, like the applicant essentially tabled themselves. So we do not have a conditional use public hearing as of right now.
Max, motion number 3, is that for the benefit of Deerfield, the developer? Is it basically dividing this into 2 lots?
It is a lot that the developer owns, yes.
Okay.
It's that large parcel beside the church. They're subdividing into two large lots that are smaller than the parcel.
Right now, it's a gigantic lot that's gonna be subdivided into 2
Two
lots.
lots.
But right as it stands, they can only build 1 house, right? But if they subdivide it, they can build 2. Okay. And it meets the 1 acre. It's not the
zoning district,
it's not the
over an acre, so
Okay.
they're over 1 acre.
All right. And there's nothing legally forcing the borough to allow this, right?
for, I mean, it's used by right.
Wait, what was the question? So
Is there anything that the borough is legally obligated to allow us?
we, because we have standards, I mean, and it's a subdivision, I don't think there are any conditions that were placed on it, but if somebody meets the requirements, they are entitled to an approval. If we do deny a minor subdivision, just like if we denied a major subdivision or major land development, we do need to give a written reason. We have to cite the provision of the saldo for why we are
Okay.
denying it.
Just so you're aware, they were looking for putting townhouses on that one, probably done.
Well, to carve it off as a I think, what's their front area? Do they
I
have-
think they probably got 12 units.
well,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, I mean, we're trying to study what's what,
And this is, I think, the best and highest use, you might say. So it shouldn't really affect anything. No houses, no taxes being paid.
yeah, I mean, the only question I'm asking is, the reason I'm asking is they have not put in the rest of the sidewalk at Taylor Ridge.
Well, they're bonded,
They're bonded.
so, yeah, they're not,
Well, they're bonded, but there's no time duration, right?
I'm sorry,
There's no time duration.
no, we don't typically do that, but I mean, it's something we should probably think about in the next one.
Okay, so, and the reason I'm asking this is if the developer's benefiting, there could be a potential for the borough to benefit in terms of time.
Put a condition on.
Yeah, put a condition on.
Minor subdivision.
When you do that, because that's outside improvements, basically.
I mean, we do have the process where, you know, the developer's agreement needs to be renewed on an annual basis, that increases it by 10%, their construction costs, and if something. And the Taylor Ridge experience was the prior one, 20 years went by and they never increased their amount, never really did another amendment or anything like that. If that is a concern that they haven't done it, and that could be a consideration at the time that they seek an amendment and an extension. Perhaps it becomes the negotiation and the point of,
Right.
okay, we'll extend it for you and maybe we'll even not, raise it by 10%, if you commit 6 months to make that
Make it-
connection.
make
or
it-
something
right.
like that.
Okay.
Sort of
Yeah,
Change
so,
your schedule.
so is everyone aware of like the sidewalk issue at Taylor Ridge and Deerfield? Basically, it is winter right now, right? So it's not happening there, but it's happening elsewhere in the borough where residents are walking on State Road, Nicholson Road. YMCA, for example, is not plowed their sidewalk, and there was an individual yesterday walking. I'm sure they're still alive, fine, or we would have heard about it. But in this case, between Taylor Ridge and Deerfield, there are individuals walking on Nicholson Road. As spring comes around and the connector is not done, I'm sure you'll start having more people. So just trying to see if we can tie this approval to the sidewalk, if there's any legally pivoting us into it. Or a time frame or something. Sorry, out. Max, is there anything?
I am thinking,
And, you know, that's,
so we have 3 phases for Deerfield Estates, and we'd assume phase 1 had the sidewalk, we have 2A and 2B. And is this, lot 329 part of phase 1? I believe it's probably phase,
There's,
3, yes. For the 3, yeah.
or the 2B, let's say. Or phase 2B.
yeah, they were originally 2 phases, 1 and 2, and then they split 2 into 2A and 2B. So that would be, if it was part of the phase that required the sidewalks, then, could perhaps have something, but now it is technically off-site because it's not related to phase. Or, something like that, but, keeping it in mind as part of when they come forward, both for a bond reduction during the year, but then that annual, renewal. That's the time to start bringing up issues with the particular phase. that
Yeah.
they're comparing.
Okay.
I'll give the developer and his engineer a call tomorrow, both,
Yeah,
and
kept them up.
shape them up.
Yeah,
Just can't do something moving on.
I mean, it's gonna be like 5 years for them.
And you,
If we leave it.
you also,
There's one be out there sooner than later.
your other,
It's like 50 homes, right? There's 40 lots left.
Once, interest rates go down, what, 30 plus, I mean, there was a lull there for like, I think, like 6 months, we didn't issue a permit, there was just no one was buying. Now, it was issues now to.
This is gonna be an expensive sidewalk. It's not gonna be straightforward.
No, it's gonna have to go down into that, you know, that house, and then they also have to, some of that house. And that may end up being a court battle just because it's sold, not with us, but the
Yeah.
developer. Yeah, you know, it's funny.
Okay.
So,
Did you buy it, Tim? Oops.
yeah, I'll get the three, squeeze them.
and they,
Machines, anything I can.
I mean, we did split two into A and B without any conditions, so,
right?
which was a mistake on our part. We should.
See if we can put it. So I'll work on that.
Thanks, Tim.
And you do have, I mean, your other sort of leverage on somebody coming up with a simple subdivision, but you have the similar 90 days to take actions. The deemed approval posture right now, so. Can say, well, there's some question of whether it gets on this month or next or further down the line. They're always worried about timing. A little different because they don't go to the planning commission, so where you start the clock is a different calculation, but.
Is the entrance for these two lots Nicholson Road or is it within like the interior?
There's actually an access from the road, but their address is gonna be Nicholson.
That is the Nicholson Road, but yeah,
Because they don't have any frontage on the cul-de-sac.
okay.
But there is an easement for access to those lots. The Williams Street lots, which is probably gonna be a safety thing.
So the homeowner will go into the neighborhood to get to their house, right? Okay, no. Not a plug of traffic on Nicholson.
Yeah,
Road. Okay.
yeah, I mean, but their address will be Nicholson Road address because that's where their frontage is.
So the mailbox in Nicholson.
That's a good question.
Oh,
I'm
no,
not at the
that-
post office.
That might be in the interior.
They have like the roof
Yeah, yeah.
boxes, right?
Yeah, but. I don't know,
But he gave.
I wish I could ask the.
Yeah, I know.
I could hear her call.
Good.
Yeah, I don't know I don't know what we're gonna do with that yet.
Okay.
You see, we do have that same situation though over on, East Run, the Franklin Run.
Oh, yeah.
We're interested.
Franklin Run.
Yeah, so there's
Oh,
like
yeah.
a driveway,
Yeah.
common driveway,
Yeah.
if those houses do front, and they do have addresses of. East Run.
Is there a mailbox on East Run?
But, you know, I mean, that's between them and the post office.
Okay. All right. Okay, yeah, I was just curious. Okay. Yeah, thanks, Tim. That'd be helpful.
Yeah. I'll start being,
Thank you.
it's fun.
Thanks.
Yep.
Yeah, any other questions on the agenda? Okay, yeah, so pivoting back, we have sorry, anything? We have a guest speaker, we have, Jason Staley, Schneider Downs. For those of you that are new to council mayor, Schneider Downs is our custodian for the pension funds. So every quarter, every now and then, Staley comes gives an update, immediately the market is reading the data. So kind of green depending on when you look at it.
Well, I think, well, welcome, Madam Mayor, and all the new, people that have been elected to the council and the new people in this room. It's good to be back. It's good to be back here. And I think, we were green in a lot of asset classes. I think I think a theme that you've heard me talk a lot about was this idea of, US large cap stocks, and specifically, 7 stocks that have, whether they call them the Mag 7, whether they're the hyperscalers, or the people that drive up our utility bills, however you want to frame them. Their valuations were getting incredibly healthy. Let's say kind of extended, healthy. And one of the things that we've done, and we talked about, I think, probably 6 to 9 months ago when I came before the when I came before the council, specifically around kind of when the tariff tantrum happened, we talked about this idea of non-US stocks and non-US stocks kind of driving the market as kind of like the next leg up. And that's really how it played out for a lot of 2025. So for the police plan, we're up about 14.3%. And for the general employees plan, we were up about 13.6. We have to run them a little bit differently because the general employees can ask for lump sum distributions. We actually had one of those lump sum distributions happen in 2022 amid, a pretty difficult market. We were able to, fully make that payment. The portfolio was intact, and we were able to kind of continue to compound capital for all the beneficiaries. So that's the reason for the kind of the performance delta that you'll see between the two plans. But really, I think that when we last got together and I was here, we talked about this idea of, international stocks were cheap. They had, better dividend yields. They actually had some earnings momentum. They're actually making more money. And, the catalyst, when you're looking at it from a quantitative perspective, I was like, for me, I couldn't understand why people didn't want to buy them. And really the catalyst ended up being the decline in the US dollar. And so the US dollar declined by about 12 to 13% last year. And that was really a significant driver and catalyst for non-US stocks, and continues to be coming into 2026. Both plans have really strong performance out of the gates this year. And again, once again, led by our international and emerging market strategies, our what we dub alternative equity strategy. That's a strategy that owns US and non-US stocks, and then gold, so gold bullion, gold miners. And we really feel like that this regime change is really starting to take foot. And, when you take the politics out of it and you just look at what happened in April when the Trump administration decided to really try to redo the economic order and kind of pivot to a more kind of Western hemisphere kind of, let's renegotiate trading agreements with Canada and Mexico. Let's focus on our part of the world, right? And kind of less of an emphasis on NATO, less of an emphasis on our relationships abroad, and more kind of focus on home. That's going to have ramifications, going to have effects. And we saw that in markets where, for the first time in, I think a 15-year period, you really saw not only outperformance among international markets, but strong and sustained outperformance. And that's kind of, you've seen that kind of carry through relative to the US large cap market. And that's something that, I think that there are benefits, there are pros and cons to every foreign policy and economic policy. But one of the effects for us as diversified investors that own US stocks and non-US stocks is that we really got this uplift from international stocks at the same time that the US stock market performed very well. The S&P 500 was up almost 17%, or excuse me, almost 18% rather. It's kind of 17 and change. So you saw a strong performance among equity markets, but more in the emerging and international asset classes. As we go through this year, you're starting to see follow through. International equity strong, but also small and mid cap. So domestic small cap and mid cap stocks outperforming US stocks, and the large cap market in particular, because the things that were driving the S&P 500, these 7 stocks, Facebook, Google, Microsoft, Apple, Tesla, the Magnificent Seven, it used to be that they were asset light. And by that, I mean, they weren't Deere or Caterpillar, right? They didn't have property, plant, and equipment. They made a lot of money. They didn't employ a lot of people, and that money dropped to the bottom line. And those cash flows were valuable, as even more valuable in an interest rate environment where interest rates were around zero. Well, now we find ourselves in an interest rate environment where we're not at zero. I think as everyone in here has probably felt to a certain degree. And these companies are not asset light anymore. For those that have kind of been following, the data center build out, and I think there's one that's being built and commissioned in Butler, PA. It's an incredibly intensive cost. Facebook is building one series of data centers in Tennessee. It's going to cost them $30 billion. You can't fund that from free cash flow. They had to tap the credit markets for the first time, not because it was a useful tool, but because they had to. They had to go to the investment grade credit market in November, and Oracle, Facebook, can't quite get there on Meta. Oracle, Facebook, and Microsoft tapped the investment grade credit market for $75 billion. And I think the scale and the cost and the amount of spend, people are starting to question whether these companies are properly valued. Not that they're not going to make a lot of money, but whether they're going to make as much money, whether that incremental dollar that they make is what is that worth? And so as we get through earnings season, Google reported today, had a great quarter. If you looked at it, they made more money than they've ever made before. But they also disclosed that they're going to spend $55 billion this year on data centers and chips and talent. Stocks down 3% after hours. These are incredible companies that are doing amazing things, but they kind of got out ahead of themselves. So what we did for both plans is kind of, take our profits. Obviously it's a good thing. It's not like when we do it in our personal accounts where you have to pay Uncle Sam. We're able to rebalance and not have to pay taxes. So you took this, we had this 10-year run of outstanding performance in large cap US stocks and specifically large cap growth stocks. And we've gotten that back to where we would consider to be a kind of more of a neutral stance. And we've taken those funds and we've reinvested them in the places that we find, more attractive. And so I think it's a really interesting time to be an investor. Small caps were positive today, mid caps were positive today domestically, international developed, and the Dow. The S&P 500 and the NASDAQ were both negative. And I think when I've come before here, most of the time it's been S&P has been positive, NASDAQ has been positive, and if anything, the Dow was negative, right? I've come here a handful of times and that's happened. So you're starting to see a rotation. I think it's normal in markets. I think that there's a slide in the capital markets deck or in the capital markets deck that I sent over that really kind of showed the top 10 stocks in 1985 in the S&P 500. If you want to feel old when you work with a bunch of 20-somethings like I do, you tell them that Kodak was one of the 10 biggest companies in the S&P 500. And they're like the thing that's on the t-shirt. So apparently Kodak and Polaroid that's become like a vintage t-shirt thing, as I was told before they called me old. You look at that and you look at that chart and specifically, business moats and markets are not permanent. You're not guaranteed anything. And if you've looked at the creative destruction that's happened over time, that chart, I think it illustrates what we're trying to navigate for, the beneficiaries of these pension plans, which is, certainly have exposure everywhere, but try to add these next incremental dollars to places we think are high growth areas. So that's kind of the high level. I'm hoping that there's some questions because it's going to look a little different moving forward. It's not going to just be large caps pulling everything along. I think you're going to start to see some really interesting things come along.
Okay, thank you, Jason. Any questions? Jason, I wanted to ask, so Senator Downs obviously does work for other municipalities.
Yes.
Right, so, are there the allocation or balancing of like a part similar to
Yes.
kind of the norm?
Yeah. So very similar. I would say that I think that it's the getting people to accept the fact that the last the last 10 years were incredible. If you owned the US large cap market, but in terms of like the history of publicly traded stocks, the 10 years is kind of like one data point. It's not a huge, you can't infer a lot from that. So I think getting people, getting investment committees, getting groups like this to understand the opportunity set in international stocks after such a significant outperformance. There have been outperformances, US and non-US, and there's a chart in here that kind of shows you rolling correlations and rolling outperformance. The degree of magnitude of this outperformance, you'd have to go back to a 4 or 5 year period in the 80s where Japan was really driving a lot of this performance to get to that last outperformance that was similar, and it only lasted 5 years, not 15. And I think that was the hardest part, is getting groups to understand why we're, not that we're abandoning the asset class, but why we're rebalancing and moving things into international stocks, especially because I think that there's a hesitance because of the underperformance.
Also with respect to data centers, you brought that up. For Google building one in Tennessee, and I think there's something being built in the Allegheny River,
Yes.
County, right? So repurposing that. Is there any risk to data centers being expanded overseas instead of the US? So what India just came up with a 20-year tax abatement for data centers. Like, is that a concern?
Yeah, I think that to take that up like to 30,000 feet before we drop down, I think that the free trade agreement that was struck two weeks ago with India and Europe, that is, when you think about kind of those pacts that are going along and kind of the economic drivers that go along with it, that used to be something like our domain. We were the ones, our country was the one signing those free trade agreements and getting kind of really good terms. And, so I think that is certainly a cause for concern. Now, there's a lot of reinvestment coming back into the United States. And what I would say is less published is the fact that we already have a lot of data centers that are in the ground. I think one of the reasons that the Trump administration took some equity in Intel was to make sure that, Intel is the one US company that has the ability to build foundries. So there are a lot of foundries that are being built in Arizona already. And I think that the sheer demand for power, I grew up in Perry, Ohio. You wouldn't know it. It's a 2 stoplight town. By the time you realized you were in it, you'd already be out of it. But the one thing that we did have was 2 nuclear power. We had a nuclear power plant with 2 stacks there. So if you're driving on Route 90 and you see it, that's where I grew up. And Sam Altman, who's he is the CEO of OpenAI, which is a large, it's kind of an AI at the frontier of data centers, and he throws around 10 gigawatts like it's me picking up a quarter on the street on 4th Avenue, walking to work. A 10 gigawatt power plant is huge. And the need for these, the need and the demand for these data centers, they're going to need them in India and in all throughout Europe. Elon Musk just announced that, his company XAI and SpaceX, they combined them. It's going public. He wants to put data centers up in outer space. Whether he can actually get that off the ground, I don't know. But what I will say is that it does solve some of the power if he can actually get it moving in that direction, because the sun will provide enough of the energy to potentially do that. We just need a lot of it. And I think that we certainly have to be more hospitable to it, but I think it's going to take a lot of consensus among the two major political parties to kind of come together and really kind of unify around the fact that it's like an all of the above energy solution. It's not just drill baby drill, it's drill baby drill. It's using renewable energy as a way to not put as much strain on the system. It's helping it's understanding how these data centers both heat themselves up and how you have to cool them down. There's a lot of different factors to it. And if we're the country that I think that we are, we'll come around to that consensus. And I think that, we'll be able to do that. But yes, India providing those kind of 20-year tax abatements, I think we would be smart to, as a country, to start to do that, to make sure that we have the investment here so that we don't lose an edge to an India, a China, some other players on the world scale.
Cool. All right, anybody else have any questions? Okay. Anything Franklin Park should be thinking about, or?
Well, I just wanted to let everyone know, when my colleague Derek Eichelberger came before the council, he let everyone know, this was prior to you coming on, Madam Mayor, that we were cutting the fees that went into effect as of 1/1. So we did cut our investment management fees by a little over 20%. That came into effect as of this most recent billing cycle. So that's something that we wanted to continue to I think reward our best clients like Franklin Park, and as assets grow, we do better, but you guys should also do better. So that was something that we wanted to deliver on for you guys, and that went into effect on 1/1.
Awesome. Okay, anything else, folks? Hey, if not, Jason, thank you so much for coming out.
Thank you guys very much. I appreciate it.
Okay, all right, moving on, reports from staff, engineering, solicitor, Max, first.
You have my written report. Happy to answer any questions. On one topic, over Hartman Farms and the stormwater issues, we're still trying to coordinate a meeting between borough engineer, Tim, myself, Gary, staff as well. So I've not been able to schedule that one just yet. That is on our to-do list. We have a couple items for executive session at the end of the meeting as well.
You have my written report. I think that answers the question.
Thank you for that report. I appreciate the extra detail. It's helpful to me.
Thanks, Rich.
Yes, along with my report, I had two things I just wanted to get everybody up to date on what we use. Salt wise, we got approximately 1,500 tons probably on hand. It's calling for some snow this week. We've already purchased just slightly under 2,000 ton, and we have 1,800 ton on order. Okay, that we having a hard time getting salt. It's coming through extremely slow. We're fortunate that we didn't have bad weather that continued to keep coming day after day, and like it was there for a while. But because we would have been in a bind here. The guys are really protecting it now. They're doing a good job on like overusing it, and but the way it looks, I mean, right now, if we didn't have any snow beyond this point, we would probably have gone through 3,800 ton of salt. 3,800 ton of salt. And that's actually, if we look at some of the other boroughs and some of the other, through our the bid process through Morton, there's quite a few of these other boroughs used a lot more salt, in areas where we did too. And it's getting tough to get. So we're hoping it stays mild from here, if it can stay mild and at least get this 1,800 ton we have. But we always like the end of the year where we have the salt down full, and that's approximately 3,000 ton that stays in the dome. So at this point right now, if we filled it up, it would be just like at the end of the season. So we still got probably another good month, probably a month and a half of snowfall yet too. So it's going to be will be kind of a little bit things to watch here as it comes along here. So the second thing I have is through our we have a 5 or 7 year plan that we have for capital purchases on vehicles. I had put in there for the last couple of years here, we were ordering a large truck for 3 years in a row. This would be the third year. If I can order a truck, I would like to have, council's approval. We'll go ahead and order a truck for next year for 27. We're looking at a total price of $226,467. is what the structure cost us. But this is gonna be on the budget for 27. And the thing, the reason why we gotta get it now is we get probably, the process of building this cabin chassis, it's still, process usually takes some time to get these built. So we'll have this truck built at the end of the year and take, purchase of it, in 27 as we're doing. We have one right now. We have it up at, J&J Bodies, that they're building the bodies and we do the hydraulics and stuff on that too. So we already paid for the cabin chassis. We just have to pay for the update on that, so. But I'd just like to have the approval from council, possibly doing this because I had it on a 5-year plan. I'm looking to try to get this on so I can actually get it, before we do the motion through the, meeting to where I can have this approved. And, do it, just give letter, to the, Go International Pavilion where this trust.
Yeah, it's budgeted, right? We have in the budget. Yeah.
We were built, but it was in the final plan.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, zero objection, council, it's budgeted, plan for, so, plan for.
Yeah.
And I'll have it, I'll get with Kathy, and have that, the information that put in, so we can have it on the agenda for this, this month possible, so.
Yeah, I just want to say awesome job with the crew on the salt. You said we've used 3,800 so far for the season.
Well, we've actually bought, we bought 2,000 tons so far. We have 1,800 ton on order. So it's, if you're looking at that, you'll probably use right around 3,800 tons so far.
Is that normal?
So it's a normal season. We've had 3 years ago, we had 2 years in a row that we had 2 mild winters. We used, I think, 1,800 one winter, and I think another winter we used maybe 2,400 or something on that one. That was a mild winter. Then we had to do a stockpile at the end of it. We stockpiled it because we had to purchase 60% of it. So we stockpiled at the end of the year. A normal season is probably around 3,500 to 4,000 ton. When we started hitting 4 and above it, that's getting probably one of our little harder seasons. I think, looking back through the years, I think there was one season we had probably maybe 6,000 ton we went through. I think on probably average seasons for us are probably around 3,500 ton on an average season. So 3,500 to 3,000 ton. So, we're at that point right now. So like I said, with another possible month and a half, if you're looking at dollar wise right now, on that 3,800 ton, you're looking at $340,000, 345 on what we're gonna have spent on that. And that's counting, not buying any, we'll be on the stuff with the board.
That's without the stuff coming in.
Well, that would be,
Oh, that's what- yeah.
with the 1,800 ton that we actually have ordered.
That,
That 1,800 ton there, you're looking at, like I said, that probably total price right now, so that 3,800 ton, looking at $345,000.
Okay.
So, I mean, this is, like I said, I think, I'm sure it's gonna go beyond that, so.
all right. Any questions?
If anybody else has any other questions for me. I know you wanted to, Laura, I guess, seeing in the email, we want to talk about possibility of, problems that people had out, snow removal and things. I don't know if you want to talk about that now, if it's part of it here. Probably the biggest complaints that I had, was people couldn't get to the mailboxes. Our guys did the best on trying to push back on the driveways to where the driveways and stuff are at. Problem is, when we get heavy snowfall like that, and they start going down the road, and you're doing 3, 4, 5 different passes through, by being out for the hours that they were, it gets to the point where it starts narrowing down the roads. And then what happens is the residents get out there before the snow is all completely dropped. We're out there cleaning their driveways. Then when you go back and you try to plow back along the driveways, you're plowing back into the driveways.
Yeah.
So we get a lot of complaints like that. I mean, if anybody can, if you could talk to anybody out there, just tell them you're gonna try to wait until the snow quits. And let the plows do their job and then shelter themselves out, and then they're not killing themselves trying to get out of their driveways. That's one of our biggest problems is, people can't get their mailboxes. And some of the cul-de-sacs were, complaints a little bit about building up, but the cul-de-sacs are tough. Because you have, in a cul-de-sac, you normally have one area that you can push the plow, and push the snow to. And it's always somebody's property that someone's gonna complain about. And it's just hard to try to spread it out, especially that volume of snow. Yeah, so, but, that's the main thing there, is, main problem is main complaints that I had, so. Everybody else had.
I will say that I had several complaints towards the end of last week about exactly what you're speaking of, the mailbox situation.
Most of what I heard was, like I shared in the email, was positive. Multiple
Yes,
people.
I mean,
Yeah, we had.
exactly.
Yeah.
We had, I mean, we had a lot of positive, there was quite a few that negatives, like I said, it was mailboxes and mainly, there was a few about plowing driveways and stuff too, so. Like I said, it's tough to do, and, the mailboxes especially, I mean, I had residents calling and I try to explain, hey, you gotta help us out too. You gotta try to get out there and, but sometimes you get, elderly people that are calling and, they just, sometimes when they're going here, they're, getting, cleaning along the mailboxes and stuff like that, but hard to do, and it's just, we don't have the manpower to do it for everybody, so.
Yeah, I also had a few friends who complained to me, but after they send the email to you, you immediately send someone to kind of like, fix this problem. They're so happy, at the beginning, they kind of complain. And then, after, talk to you and, immediately the problem is kind of like solved. So far, I think like what I heard is just kind of like a positive, the response. We really appreciate like, not only like you guys did a wonderful job.
We try to do what we can for residents. I mean, we try to reach out. This was probably the hardest decision to make on telling the residents, but, we just can't get out there to everybody's mailbox, That was probably, and through the 3 years of me being in my position, I mean, I try to reach out any way I can to help the residents, whatever, and so it doesn't, so the complaints don't reach the council. Because once it reaches you, then it's gonna come back on me.
Yeah,
We try to do what we can.
yeah, all of my friends are kind of surprised that you just respond like so quickly, and so they feel like, and they really appreciate you guys the job. Thank you.
You guys really did a great job,
Absolutely.
and people from other municipalities that we saw, and more than just what I sent, reached out and said, I always know I can get through Franklin Park, that's where I'm gonna go if I need to go somewhere, so. And in a storm of the size that we got, you're gonna have to be patient, not you, but us as the residents,
Just look at the city, look at Pittsburgh, and every time when I pass the city, I feel like, what the heck, and they just look miserable. And the city look miserable, and even right now, and some roads are kind of like still covered by the snow. And luckily they can go get, they can get the donation from the UPMC and the PNC Bank or from the big company, to buy the plow truck, But, yeah, really, and we really appreciate it.
I know I was particularly impressed because, I mean, that's a lot of snow. You can only put it so many places. So, but the fact that the roads were as wide as they were, as soon as they were after the storm, I know that I appreciated that. My wife had to get to work on Tuesday, and she was able to do that with no problem. Neighborhood letter carrier was, he was trying his best to get to their mailboxes, but he understood the situation. And towards the end of the week, everybody was getting mail again. But I did have one question, and I know we've talked about sidewalks in the past. I was able to get my snow blower out and get at least a path on my sidewalks, but there were some areas where there was so much snow piled up that didn't even know where the sidewalk was, let alone try to be able to dig it out without risking your health for somebody my age, let alone some of the elderly neighbors. So I don't know if there's, we talked about, like if it's 24 hours after a storm, having to have that cleared off. Is there any, written or unwritten leniency on that for people who may be affected by having, a 6-foot pile of snow on their sidewalk?
You don't do any of those complaints to go out and look, right?
Well, I just had a conversation today, we're gonna be going out starting tomorrow. With initial, if you haven't touched it at all since the storm, is what we're gonna be looking at. And then we'll put a second notice out on Monday or Tuesday. But if you at least made an attempt. But what's really kind of funny is most of the ones you want, you find, the driveway's spotless. And the sidewalk has never been touched.
That's actually miraculous. Like I was looking at it, I can imagine a situation where people just can't get a shovel to dig out those sidewalks now because they're frozen, like impact, you know, all that type of. 'Cause I know like when I did mine, again, with the snow thrower, most of the tunneling through and it's fine. It's not, you know, you do that in the driveway and that's the way it is. But for the shovelers, and there's lots of shovelers, 2 shovel method, you know, big shovel method, not get a sidewalk done.
And that's why we try to be lenient on this exception of stuff like this.
Yeah.
So it's just a week and a half.
Yeah.
If there hasn't been any attempt at all, I think at this point, it's our responsibility to bring forth the code enforcement if you see trees.
Have you had anybody report to you yet?
I've had several, ironically, it's HOA presidents usually the call. You know, well, we have 19 houses that haven't shoveled their sidewalk. And what really frustrates me with that is, I mean, most of the HOAs have more stringent rules than we do. And they have the capacity to do this themselves, but they come back and want us to spend the tax dollars to do it for them. I wish we could just write the HOAs.
Yeah, you just wanna ask, not to like digress here, but, is it priority to look at the commercial business first before residential?
Yes, we'll be looking at commercial businesses first. I rode around today for about an hour and a half, 2 hours. And I have a good picture of where I'm gonna start, you know, commercial businesses. And the schools and so on and so forth. I am our middle school, there's a lot of sidewalk there isn't clear.
Yeah.
Sheets it on the way, a lot of money up there. Franklin Village, now on Bramsville Road, isn't clear. You know, but I already took a look at that, but where we've run into a little bit of a catch on the businesses is. We're probably gonna have to write the notice of violation as opposed to put the ticket on the door, because it isn't really the tenants in the shop.
Yeah.
Is responsible, now Sheets is the exception, but like Franklin, I had to do the old process to the NOV to get to the landowner. I mean, this parking lot's perfect, but the sidewalks aren't taken care of. So that takes a little bit longer.
Okay. Great, thank you.
That's all.
I remember here, but on Nevin Drive between 2345 and 2347. Water Authority opened up the road to fix a water main. There's now like a little sunken pit thing. I don't know if it's just too early to complain, but it's really a hazard in the middle of the road. I don't know if you guys can put some patch on it.
I can check it.
Okay.
So now maybe check with them. A lot of times too, is if they open it up, they'll just patch it up and it's not gonna probably be good for a couple of months and it's gonna take them a while to get back and do the repairs on it.
But if we can do something.
Yeah, but I'll check it out and see first when you put some cold patch in there or something.
That probably would be part of
That's maybe for us. 25 and 47 or something.
Yep, we got it. You can see it, it's, you look at it's 2345 and 2347. It's right where you can't like drive over it or around it, it's just, you know, you want to figure,
Anything else? Thank you.
This month, we don't have a planning commission meeting, the zoning hearing board will be meeting next week, they have one appeal for a property on West Englemoor Road.
If I may, I think it's prudent for me to disclose that, this particular hearing, is my next door neighbor, and my husband is representing them as the counsel.
Okay, so we have done this before with Brian and Christine, you got an ethics.
Yeah, we've done that.
Or so, but yeah, we would just recuse yourself rather than just abstention. So we do discuss it further in executive session. If there are anything in the packet, we'll need to sort of scrub or send out separately. If there is an appeal somewhere or the other, we'll continue on through there.
For us, what we did, you left that business till the last executive session and I just.
Yes.
Yeah.
The other thing is I had a couple of things that, I guess we discussed in my report. In January first, the UCC has changed codes from the 2018 volumes of codes to the 2021. And with that, the International Property Maintenance Code and the National Fire Code are not completely a part of that change. So, the request to the council authorize the solicitor to revise the ordinance to repeal 2018's International Property Maintenance Code and International Fire Code, and revise the ordinance to make the 2021 volume the code of the borough. And that way there's no conflict.
We've done that at least twice before.
It's
Yeah,
pretty
I think
standard.
this-
This is
it was
incorporated by reference type thing.
I mean, they have a model one. We have some of our own language, like high weeds. We have a special section, so we do some modification. By and large, it's just adopting
Okay.
the 2022,
Yeah,
2021.
and they're both property maintenance codes, so UCC is only good for construction that's under permit. When we're out doing fire inspections or, you know, we get a complaint because of, you know, whatever on the property, those property maintenance codes can look at, so. Also, new construction, new non-residential construction does reference the International Fire Code to some extent. But for maintenance purposes after that, it should be it doesn't regulate that, so you don't same code volume, same code year. So if it didn't do that,
And some municipalities do, but we never have the update the building code ordinance. Well, we opted in 2005, which
Yeah,
was just sort of said, yes, it's the same one. So that's why
yeah.
we don't do a third ordinance.
Yes, every time that's updated, that's approved by the group called the RAC, and then it's approved by the Department of Labor and Industry, and that changes. That's the approximately. The other thing is, might be for executive session, we have a house in Surveying Road under construction for the last 20 years.
Yeah, definitely executive session.
Yeah, that permit is, will expire this month, and I don't know the game.
That's executive session.
We'll talk.
That's all I have.
Yeah, that 2021 code, is there a newer one? Or is it every 3 years?
Well, there is,
Take
but
some time to.
But like the 2024 codes are just coming out. But that's not gonna be the code of the state for the construction, so you don't wanna jump ahead. In 3 years, we can talk about it. Somebody else can talk about it. I'm not gonna be here in 3 years, let me tell you.
Okay. Maybe next year. Okay. Okay, all right, cool, thank you.
You have my written report. Anybody have any questions?
You got my report. I guess the only big thing on that is the golf outing. We have the contract from Cranberry Highlands. So with your approval, we'll get the deposit to them this month for the outing on July 27th, I think it is. That's the last Monday in July. With a new council that, the outing was for the scholarship. I've brought up in the past couple of years, it makes money, but it's not profitable as it used to be, and it's a lot of effort so we need as much participation, we need as many golfers as possible, minimum 100's ideal, more than 100's even better. Cranberries worked with us last year, we were under the 100, we were right around, I think we're at 90. They were okay with that, but we can't really be below that. And then on top of that, the silent auction that we do, if we're able to help it, with baskets or things that the profit off that as well. It's always a help to keep this moving forward.
Do you have sponsorship packet information yet?
Donna usually works on it sometime, usually here in March, we start getting rolling with that, so we don't have one quite yet. But we'll have that, I'll have that maybe for the next meeting, we can have something together. For the sponsors. That's the other thing we try to get a main sponsor. We have a lunch sponsor. There's whole sponsors of, business who would want to As well, one thing we talked about last year, on top of the lunch pad sponsors, possibly a breakfast sponsor. So as people come in early, you have coffee or donuts to help pay for that we didn't have last year. When we were together, golf club, it was part of the package, but they don't, so. If we could get a sponsor that way for the breakfast, should be better for the as they come in the morning, so. Yeah, I'll get this, this sponsorship. Yep.
Yeah, cool question. The golf, the 10 golf carts, that are being purchased, we for that, right, last month.
Yes,
That's out of the golf funds, right?
that's all.
Okay, that's.
Yeah.
There's a question. That's what we had on.
Yeah, no, the golf always, it
Self-sustaining, right?
it's self-sustaining with its own account and funds.
Okay. Cool. Okay, thank you.
We provide a report, I guess one update, so for the steel coat program, we're preparing, it's off, we should have, next couple of weeks. Which is a partnership.
Thank you.
Thanks for a late March opening, so you'll be great. Any questions, happy to answer, or directly show. We had, got together our, emergency response plan for the dam. I know that we had signed off on it here with the borough, with the intent to get it sent to the county to get it signed off as well. Do you know the status of that or where it's at? I haven't heard anything. I do not, I can check with Sean. I have a meeting with him next week. Okay. Our team meeting, so, I just didn't know if you knew more. You know, out of that. Okay.
Thanks.
You have my report, more than happy to answer any questions.
I'm just curious about something cheap. So Saturday morning, I'm taking my daughter to hockey lessons in Cranberry. And I pull out on the Brand School Road from Ramblewood where I live. You can tell there's nobody coming either directions. You can't see even any headlights. And all of a sudden, there's some maniac behind me doing like 50 miles an hour and is riding me, and he can't even see his headlights. I know I've seen officers on Brand School Road quite frequently. Is that considered a targeted enforcement area that you guys concentrate on, or?
Branch Road is one of our most heavily traveled area. We do a lot of traffic posts, actually right on Rosemary, which is across the street there from the plant, and then up the street a little bit more towards, Trinity Lutheran, the church and stuff. So it is heavily patrolled. It's a very tough road to do enforcement on. With so many cars, so much traffic, it's very hard to pull out. But yeah, I mean, obviously if it's a road rage situation, I always encourage everyone, call 911. We're usually in that area. If we can identify the operator of that vehicle and have a conversation with them.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind for next time, because I got suicide passed.
Yeah, okay.
So,
Honestly.
good to know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Any other questions? Okay, staff Tuesday or?
I don't believe so.
Tim?
But yeah, if Kim is gonna be an executive, then yes, I need to stay. Yes.
There. Okay, everybody can head out except Tim and Chief?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for that.
Sometimes you win, sometimes. Well, I'm gonna tough call.
Hey, go ahead and mention for.
Yeah, sure. You have my report here, any questions I'm happy to answer. I'll hit some of the bigger topics, Fair Run, the MS4 project. All of the easements, settlement agreements have been executed. We issued payment to the caregivers for settlement and issued payment into court for Spirit Realty. The council president just signed our permit application for that location, which will be submitted tomorrow. We had a meeting, myself, Max, our engineer with Penvest about the application process. They are requiring that we have all permits at hand before we can apply. And so we're gonna have to wait out the 6 to 9 month permit process where we can apply for funding, and that'll take another quarter at least before we're awarded. And so
the realistic timeline of construction for either project is gonna be 2027. Based on those parameters, we were hoping that, they were gonna allow us to apply conditional to the permits coming through, that it's not the case. Fish Run, we received the secondary property that was reported. I'm in the process of trying to find a right of entry into the property we own now. We have the easement through one of the developments in between two houses, that is not particularly enticing to anybody, specifically the residents. And so I'm in the process now of trying to work with residents, or working with residents on Shadow Brook Drive, to get a right of entry into the backside of that project. The Blueberry Hill playground equipment, the contractor which we're working with under CoStars, is willing to offer us a discounted rate on freight. We sign a contract sooner than later. They have a slow beginning of the year. They're trying to incentivize some projects right now. So once we get our grant agreement, get it executed, we'll likely be moving on that sooner than later, to try to get that reduced rate. I think it's gonna be $15,000-$20,000 less. It's always helpful. And that's the bulk of everything. We're gonna be issuing our NOT for Matterhorn, and closing out that project finally, and then submitting our annual report with. So, that's the bulk of everything I have other than executive session.
Okay, any questions? Okay, if not, the next item, designate a delegate. Alternate for the MRM Workers' Comp Trust and MRM Property Mobility Trust. Which it does say if they build others, no, dividend checks will be distributed.
But they do ask, and I think Brian, you served previously, they do ask if nobody attends the meeting, that a proxy be signed by the delegate.
Sorry, so one-time thing.
Who is the delegate now? Who was, I guess?
It was Brian.
Oh.
I did such a good job, I should just.
Great. You did fabulous.
You didn't do anything? Like-
Proxy, signed a proxy, it's great.
No, I mean, like this MRM.
Meetings. Trust.
What is it? What do they do? Like, what is this thing?
MRM is, I mean, it's sort of the old municipal, you know, health insurance, other insurance, workers' comp, property line insurance. So trustees are similar to ASHIC, the Allegheny County Schools Health Insurance Consortium. You come to ALOM, they usually give a presentation, they have a table as well, it's a free pen. Well, yeah, because they're specific to such a municipal clients, they're able to get benefits.
It's pulling the risk.
Pulling risks.
Alright. You wanna do it?
Yeah, it's fine. I'm good at signing
Or-
policies.
If you wanna do it.
But no, I don't understand the scope of I don't want to do it, but I don't understand the scope of what this person does. The delegate.
Me neither.
Well, you carry on that.
But sometimes, you know,
You've done a fine job so far, it sounds like, but.
status
Tell
quo,
their fiduciary duties,
that's it.
they're not trusted.
Being an alternate,
Nope.
the form says.
Good, you know, use my name. Feel free.
Anybody want to be an alternate?
Yeah, it's cool.
You wanna do it?
Put that on your resume.
From there, go
Well, somebody asked to do this one.
Never a play.
Brian, what
What is that?
Alright. So Brian's gonna be primary and Dr. Lee's gonna be alternate. Okay. Alright, enjoy. Okay, the next topic item is review the draft ordinance for data centers. So Brian, do you wanna,
Just kind of lead
do you
it.
just wanna like summarize it for us?
So what we did is we mapped in the land use, Uday was there, Borough was there, Mayor was there, I was there, Kim was there. And first that, and we gone through the bond ordinance, we changed it the way we thought was good, we relied on Tim for advice, because advice is really good in this case. And what we're presenting to you is a clean version of what we came up with. We think that it protects the Franklin Park residents. It's not overly, exclusive, so it's not gonna be somebody is gonna come after us and say you made it impossible to get this. If they jump through all the hoops, it's a conditional use. So conditional uses, they have to come before the borough, council and present and explain how they've met all of the conditions and requirements. We lead heavily on stuff that already works. So if you take a look, we reference our favorite, where's the, yeah, you're on it, yeah, M2 and M3. Depending on what we were talking about, whether it was aesthetics, whether it was buffering, things like that. So we also reference something and put it someplace where everybody's familiar with, from old council and welcome to new council. It's the oil and gas overlay district. So if you take a look at the map, this isn't a really accurate map, but Zach will get you one so you can see what's going on. That's where we said you can go ahead and place a data center if everything else falls into place. We have to provide a place for it. If we do not, it can go anyplace. That's very bad. Default is bad. So this is where we've selected. We're pretty comfortable with the language. I believe Max does have to go to the county at some point to come back to us.
County Economic
Yeah.
Development for comments has to go to your planning.
Okay.
45 days in advance of action, 30 days for a public hearing.
Okay. So that's where we are with it. If anyone has any like substantive comments or anything like that, other than that, we'd like to keep going with it, because the sooner the better, in this case.
I don't have a substantive comment,
Yeah.
but a small one.
Yeah.
Section 1 on the first page. At the end of that first line, it should be titled, not entitled.
Yeah, that's very true.
That's all.
Zach's got it. So heads to planning commission and then it goes to the county, is that right?
We've done it simultaneously,
Okay.
at the same time. It's up to you of how long you can give it to the planning commission, and then they can spend as much time as they want. If you wanna have sort of an end date, you can schedule a public hearing, or at least have an idea of when will be coming. We've done the pending zoning ordinance doctrine in other instances, where we pass a resolution saying it's being under consideration, announcing that it's going to planning commission and going through the process.
Do you have anything, Zach? Cool.
Well, I mean, we can do that if you're really concerned about it,
Yeah.
but I think that anywhere in Franklin Park is gonna be not as desirable as it is.
That's
And, you know, I don't know that we have to rush through this, because I usually get a phone call several months ahead of time before anything happens. I didn't even realize this was a thing until it's not cool.
Not really wanting to rush through it, but I'd like to keep the inertia going.
Yeah.
These things are true.
Do you want to say, so
Yeah.
since I believe Thursday, you were not at the discussion, do you want to take 2 weeks to review this? See if anything they might change, anything but they, personally, I thought I would like more time. Just like 10 days or so.
Yeah, whatever you think is best, yeah.
There are some other model ordinances out there that I look at. And some articles related to like Springdale, like Buses Fund and
Sure.
Buses Butler, of course. So I don't know if you guys. But that, yeah, it's pretty efficient for them. So because once this is in place, maybe someone else put data center. You are gonna have that very good diet, right?
Those,
Here's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do want to ask, that overlay area that's in black, is that the official area or is it actually
Well,
small?
I think we talked about the
Smaller area?
the area
And
of
three,
the overlay.
yeah.
Let's take on.
Yes.
No.
Yeah. Actually speak. That's language.
Zach's got it memorized.
West.
Yeah, so it's all of M3, which is the orange, the skinny orange district.
Yes.
And then once you get to the very top where it touches autonomy to the left, that map is outdated for the overlay district, but it comes down about halfway down that extension.
Right here?
Yeah, right in there, and that's it.
Okay, so it is not over here, right? Okay.
Because our long-term planning has that for the potential like residential housing as things expand.
Trailer park, right, is that what we said?
Yeah. But that's
Okay, so it is-
the concern
it's over
was that
there.
we would
Okay.
eliminate potential housing for.
Really expensive trailer park. Wood.
So yeah, timing wise, I'm good with whatever
Yeah.
you guys want, you know.
Do you wanna ask, since we are part of the S&P, not one rule, what fees can, the borough collect? For this? Revenue. No, well, even, just in general, like, is there anything,
Conflicted on, but I can tell you what happened to some extent in Springdale.
yeah,
Yeah, they are considering a community benefits agreement, which isn't really in the MPC. Otherwise, you see them more affiliated with like the Penguins building, PPG base, Monson Energy. Things like that, there was a commitment. Because when, I mean, it was a vacant land was assessed at like $100,000 or something like that. And when it was purchased after the approval, or when the approval was coming down, sold for $14 million. Or the agreement was they weren't gonna do an assessment appeal and get half of that, like they said. That's us until we actually start building at 14 million. So that's where those calculations for what that meant for the school district and the borough was part of it. And when you get further down the line, in terms of tax assessments, well, aren't entirely sure how, but Pennsylvania, you got three methods: cost, comparable sales, or income. Income is usually for rental, property, apartment buildings, rent, not the underlying economic activity, but with the data center, probably power, it's really just access to power and computing, and that's a lot of income, it's all related to. So that's where the question comes, well, how do you value from an assessment purpose, once it is up and running?
Well, and the other thing about this too is where we put it, and really anywhere in the borough, there's not a good power source.
No.
Not a good water source. You need both of them. So, we made provisions for it if somebody feels that they need to do it. They're gonna be spending a lot more money than what they would in an area that they have sufficient.
Right.
but along the river.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
And we have to provide
It's a
for it.
great place.
Oh, yeah, that's a formal power plant.
I would think that community is welcome.
There's some no appeals were taken, and it's still going through. I mean, it was just zoning variances and conditional use. They still got land development, so that's like division,
It's not approved, I thought it was council approved it, like board approved.
the conditional use. But
Okay.
not, then now they gotta go back, build it, so they need land development approvals, building permits. Not done yet.
You guys have any questions about this ordinance? For draft ordinance?
Just make building already.
What's that?
Are we trying to just build the ordinance to be ready?
Yeah.
Be proactive, not reactive.
Yeah, instead of somebody coming in and going, oh, wait, we gotta do something else. Don't wanna do that. You don't wanna be there.
We do have,
Just be ready.
yeah, we have what's called a savings clause in our ordinance. It says if some novel new use that isn't enumerated that we cover, they can go in any zoning district through a conditional use process at some level, but then need to compare it to the standards for the closest use. So by identifying, actually regulating a new term or a new type of use.
Yes, I say it, orange or that. Both, thank you.
Zach sent you guys the map if you want to take a look.
And is it pretty big enough to update that? Yeah, I guess as long as we have an updated version. Yeah, the one that we got the other day, I'll work with you, but you make a note to get that done. Yeah. Thank you.
So is this also paired with a zoning map change? Or is that?
No, we're just relying on what's already on the zone.
That was
right.
It was something different.
It's just old.
Maps is, yeah.
We're looking at an old one and you want to put the new one
I'm
on.
not sure how this overlay
Yeah,
changed more.
but we're not actually.
The ordinance,
taking-
I think the ordinance called of the area out.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it was both a text and a map change.
I don't remember us doing that.
Change the map.
Definitely looks
It
bigger.
says,
Well, I know, but I think we changed the map through the ordinance. You might-
well, that's what you do, you change the map, always.
And then the map.
But it wasn't changed, it was changed through the written part of the ordinance.
The text.
And we did, so we didn't have two documents, we had a physical map. Just like, actually, just.
That's basically would be about.
We can check whatever, yeah, remember,
I remember reading the oil and gas related.
But I don't think we actually revised the map.
that would say.
Take a look at the.
2019, September.
Linwood Park.
They take a look at the cross. Accessing oil and gas.
Okay. All right.
That was changed.
Yeah, yeah, but what I'm saying is it's different.
Throw that in.
Bigger than I-
I hear you.
That might be an old one, that I think was an original draft, is that going all the way up to, Stone Mansion? I think at one point you backed it off, away from these.
Just
a brief overview.
If we did the map separately, you're saying there would be a separate ordinance?
It should,
Because I don't see it.
We're discussing this.
48, 2018.
That's the oil and gas recovery district overlay.
Yeah, the map.
Yeah.
Or a
The map or is it the text?
both. But,
Which
and you know what I'm saying, that a map change has additional notice requirements, you notice. Everybody impacted by the map, so it's not part of a comprehensive review. Well, once again, I don't know, I was conflicted on that one too.
Yeah, that was,
There it is.
They have a different map.
Yeah, that's.
oh,
Yeah.
was there?
This is not the.
This is not.
That was a draft, but never got in there.
Never mind.
Okay. So is the one on the wall,
Yes.
but it doesn't have like,
Yeah.
doesn't have a overlay thing, you know, west of.
No.
Or industry, yeah, so where would the data center be?
Well, still that frame,
Okay.
but now we can figure out. It's. We want to put it all through the district.
We'll expand the overlay district for this, or make a new overlay. Outside. of the-
out, we should probably bring in special counsel.
Well, we could, I think we can make a new overlay district for this.
Yeah.
Just to incorporate all of them too, and the portions that map shows.
Are we saying that map is not actually effective?
Yeah.
That's not.
It's accurate, but it's not in
For
effect.
some reason, that's not.
Well, what is this is not the right map.
Yes,
And-
it is.
oh, this is the right map.
That is.
Okay. Is this, I'm just trying to look, is this on our website?
Well, we took it down because we thought that the other map was correct.
Do
Gotcha.
you want me, I now see the ordinance that was passed that has this now, you can forward it to everybody?
Yes.
Yeah, yes.
E and E.
So are there any,
We serve a purpose.
just wanna check the,
Always.
if maybe there is a way to use the existing overlay district, but can you shrink the overlay district further down?
Well, we could change the oil and gas overlay district, but why do that? Let's use the boundaries on the map that we thought was the right one for the overlay, along with the M3 zoning district, so we can overlay on the M3, and then the property to the
Western.
west.
Okay, but not the eastern.
Now, then all that we'll do is we'll have
Are you guys following?
another overlay here, we don't have to.
All right.
Why don't you just make
Some
that
other boundary.
M3?
So the idea is to use this western part,
Yeah, because when I originally said, right,
And then-
I mean,
orange,
yeah, I was
Okay.
right here,
that's it.
right, so if it
Which
was
is
in,
what we had kind
it
of.
That's what
was
we
in the
talked about.
overlay, and
How do
it was
we-
in F3, that was fair game, or we needed to move, we had to have a little bit more.
So this is all.
Well, that's what I.
So you will use it.
Yeah.
This one over here.
Okay.
Not
no,
the.
this is
not
oil
the-
and
not
gas.
the- and the-
Hold on.
West, okay.
We're gonna do this.
Okay,
Yeah, I think I do want to
that's over there,
mention
so when you look at it and say that.
part of my reasoning for buying both the oil and gas and data center in the same overlay and just making it smaller is there's potential for data centers to utilize if there is oil and gas activity, getting to access heat, power for the data center. So there could be combined use.
Well, then one, Andy and I work on revising that map and getting it out. So where I'm talking about.
What you envision,
Yeah,
right?
that vision, we'll call out.
Yeah,
The western,
What we call it. Way to
call the
back.
data center,
Allison,
okay,
that's fine.
I'll start there.
Yeah.
Does that work for? I think it's through more or?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just trying to follow.
Yeah, no, that works. It almost worked if we had the right map.
Okay,
we might have to begin to go to.
They control that.
They did.
Yeah. They'll probably have most recent version that Zach thought was current. We thought was current. Yeah. No, I mean, you and I talked about it, I wasn't sure which it was, and this is where we are, so. That version we do, the engineer does have the, we have to tweak it, and then add whatever you're doing now for the data center. Shouldn't be a major change.
what's to the western?
Yeah.
To the west
Okay,
side,
alright.
to the west, please.
As long as we have that information, that they have it.
Okay,
That's all.
so next,
But the area for the data centers is not changing.
Right.
We're just updating.
We're just gonna do a revised map.
Got it, thank you.
Is it literally like that? The 2 or 3 lots to the west of? There's like,
Yeah, they're larger properties.
right,
that are there. And honestly, my target was the western map.
okay. Yeah, that's exactly what's on those lots.
So it is or is not inclusive of M3?
it's M3 and then.
And three and then probably
Okay,
to the
that
west.
was my understanding.
Yeah.
I didn't know if that's where
They're
we ended
like
up.
2
Okay.
or 1 lots.
Well, it's everything that's in M3 that's also in the overlay, in the oil and gas overlay district, and then to the west. Right,
Up at the top.
of the top, yeah, so you're not,
So
you're
it's not
not
the
doing,
entirety of
you're not
M3.
doing this part here that's hanging down.
Gotcha.
See, that's not there.
Yeah.
And then there's stuff to the west, which they're control.
Okay.
Got it.
Okay, so this is part of data center, sewage.
They are there.
They are there.
Come from
Oh, from the other way, okay. Water lines?
We're good for pulling up water and it was staying. A lot of power and structure. It's not an extension. Or at least not as I'm saying.
Space. Go for big extension for a little fun.
Yeah.
It's already old.
Okay, anything else in the data center? Okay. All right. Different person, what's on there? Peter, you want to go first? Okay.
Not really having.
I just like a couple of comments. I'm tomorrow a month into this. I have been trying to acclimate myself to person, places and things, and protocol piece. I want to thank prior council for approving the cost for the government academy, local government academy. I so far have found it very useful and enlightening. I'm also going to be attending the ALM conference. I'm joining the State Mayors Association. All of these for educational resources as well as networking. When I was general counsel for senior healthcare, we had a general counsel's group that met informally, and we called it our therapy session. So I look at this as perhaps some therapy sessions as well. Going to be meeting with both Captain Jarvis with the fire department and Chief Dell with the ambulance authority. So just getting my feet wet. And I was also asked if I want to continue the mayor's Monarch program. If anybody is familiar with that, please see me after. So I can find out more
Can share
information about that. So,
It's monarch butterflies, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to waste staff time. And we already do so much environmentally. We have the EAC, we're now in Bergtown, I don't think we need to, organizations that we're a part of. And so my opinion would be, I don't necessarily think that we need it, right? Because we're already doing so much elsewhere. But if it's something that we want to continue with, and the mayor's passionate about, of course, we'll take care of that.
I'll look at it a little bit. Okay. Thank you.
Did they want an effort with it?
Just like reporting,
We just copy it for previous years.
now you have to, functions all the time.
I'm looking at the headlines.
That's fine.
That's
You
like-
know, or a TV paper.
Okay, yeah.
No, that's all I have.
The only thing I want to talk about is if anybody, the email that I sent earlier this week, if anybody else has anything to add about the snow response, any perspectives, good or bad from residents. I think from what I understand and what I've heard from both staff and residents is it went really well. But if there's anything else that anybody, Zach, if you wanted to add anything, I know
Yeah,
mailboxes are an issue.
yeah, we have a policy that we put out, in our fall newsletter. It states if we hit a mailbox, with a vehicle, of course, we're liable, we're gonna take care of it, we're gonna fix it, right? But if a mailbox goes down from snow removal and we don't hit it, there's no evidence of hitting it, we're not responsible for the repairs. But the snow this size, like we had stated, you know, if the last one we had roughly this size was a 93, so every 20 years, the volume of snow being moved and the weight of it naturally causes problems. So as it starts to melt, I assume we're gonna get more and more calls about mailboxes being damaged, or, you know, the pole being snapped to the bottom. But the majority of them we haven't hit. And so I asked Gary to kind of enforce that policy, which is pretty standard for communities in our area.
How do we differentiate if we hit it or if it was?
When they called right after, we would go out and investigate it. So we would send Tom, our foreman, out and take photos of the mailbox. And you determine based on where the plow ends, because the berm is pretty set in stone. And if we were within a range we felt we were close enough to striking it, we're just doing it, right? But if it's 2-3 feet away and it's down, we didn't hit it.
Have they repaired mailboxes already?
I think we're still waiting for.
I was gonna say
some of
that.
the weather,
tough,
it's hard
but-
to dig a hole in current conditions. Yeah. But yeah, if you drive through town and focus on the mailbox, you see that there's a lot that are linked. And you know, we're as careful as we can be, but we also don't have, I don't think we should be replacing 30 and 40 mailboxes. Unfortunately.
Anything on your end? Chief?
No, we actually did not have a lot of complaints. So, yeah.
You're bragging a little bit.
No, everybody seemed to adhere to the advisories to stay home, stay off the roads. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think people have just forgotten that we chase those farms regularly. I kind of feel like, there's so much snow, but you know, the first 2-3 years I lived here, we routinely only got 10-12 inches. I mean, this is all at once, but it was the norm.
Yeah.
But it's been quite some time since we've had this, and that's part of it. There were a few keyboard warriors complaining, but they were called out by the residents. And you know, we apologize.
I got a compliment from a Pine resident. Yeah, they said that our streets were significantly better than Paris. So it's very nice to hear that the region sees it as well.
Yeah.
So these are nice ones, and it really is an outlier. I mean, I saw someone ice fishing on the lake in McCandless on my way in this morning. So yeah. So it's just one of those years.
I saw McCandless community was complaining because their mail had essentially stopped because of the way their roads were plowed.
Yeah.
So, and somebody was saying, listen, the mail carrier's gonna move down the road, and if they can't deliver mail like they normally do by sticking their hand out,
Yeah.
they're not gonna do it.
Yeah.
So it's all jammed up at the post office for a number of days, I guess, and
Yeah.
there were a bunch of complaints, but I don't think we had that.
Yeah, well, we try to get as close as we can without the engine problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was smart to let space on the building too, so.
Oh, yeah, we did solve it all for the it solved at the end of everything. I mean, we a little bit between your intersections and your hillsides to make sure there's no functional for us to continue plowing and for anyone that needs to go on the road. And then we met with and spoke with our first responders about if there were any emergencies they need to get to, who to contact. We could have plow trucks in front of them to make sure they get where they need to be. And we'll try to be as proactive as possible prior to this month.
Well, I was impressed, but most people just stayed away from the streets
Yeah.
until you guys.
Public Works said there wasn't a single vehicle parked on the roads anymore, so it's very helpful for us, I think. I was particularly pleased to see the way the salt was used because, you know, I grew up in Chamberlain, and they were really salt happy. Yeah, they throw the salt down the tunnel all that, like, what's the point of that? Especially when you're gonna get 12 inches, you know, just wasting a lot of it. And as there is a shortage in the area, it's hard to get, you know, it makes sense to try to use it for cleanup efforts and to keep the, you know, intersections and the hillsides functional.
It was really strategic and also took a lot of patience to sit and wait.
Our guys were really good at it, you know, there's no one there monitoring that, so like, you know. Kind of spoke to them every couple of days,
Yeah.
what we kind of needed, but they were fantastic, so.
Laura, anything else?
That's it, thank you.
Right.
I'm good.
I just want to remind everyone on the 18th, we have our emergency response. Which is disaster.
Yeah, it's, I'll walk through for all of our new, elected officials and myself, because I've been looking at here. And make sure everyone's on the same page, and then what that process kind of looks like, and then, for our emergency response coordinator.
Laura, did we use this when you? First time, right? Okay. Yeah, so it's a simulation thing for immediate fire department.
But we're gonna meet here, because it's front before the meeting, we're not gonna go over to the fire department to the phones. That whole process, but we'll meet here and go through whatever Tom has planned.
What time do we start?
I think it was
5:30.
but I can send a follow-up email.
Probably best.
Yeah.
Because that was
It's
good.
79.
I'll send
That's your best.
And then, check your email, that refresher course thing, I'd be good to go through it. It's pretty quick.
Walk through, it's a little bit of both, but like I said, I haven't gone through it yet, since I wasn't here for the last one.
It's a simulation,
No, we're gonna start at 5:30, and it'll end the council meeting.
like an hour, a little under an hour and a half. Great. With my effort.
Yeah.
It took like an hour, a little over an hour last time.
Yeah.
Showed us how to use phones and was Blizzard or something. Okay, so I have, we go to the executive session. Yeah.
Just one thing I'll put
Yeah.
about that, was news a few weeks ago. Do you need to do anything about, the post events upcoming, shutting down their other business? Since they are the official road.
We are continuing to monitor it, Alom, what all the ones are also looking at it, in terms of legislation, there's the perennial, so we can talk to the elected officials in Harrisburg to potentially amend the, rules for newspaper general circulation and the Newspaper Act. I have heard Tribune Review will be doing a 1 day a week publication. And that's the rule. It had, while we can't do the penny saver, we didn't have that anymore, couldn't do the city paper. It has to be a print publication at least once a week. You know, available for sale and not to some closed professional group or something like that. So if those are what are running out, and they know he has them, but at least the Trib has said they're gonna do 1 day a week. It's gonna be tough because everybody's gonna have to do there now. Right now, Post Gazette Tuesdays and Sundays. So get that. There's still talk about savior of the Post Gazette, either staff, employees, or third party coming in, running it as a nonprofit. Anybody else interested? We got a lot out there. So yeah, it is a matter of concern. Not many good solutions. We have started looking at what other more rural communities that just have not had any, some form of a court order or something that just says this is how it's to be done.
Oh, I do have one thing I forgot to bring up. Aurora Drive, which is privately owned, with a big apartment complex at the end. Their property manager reached out in the last couple of days, asking what the process would look like if they were to try and turn it over to the borough. And so it would need to be wide, there'd be cul-de-sac at the end, there's a ton of work that needs to be done. But they had asked, you know, if council would consider it, so I told them to submit an official letter signed by the owners with the request, and then we can kickstart from there, you know, what that would look like. And what work they would have to do in order for us to be willing to take it.
You don't have to pay our engineer or something to work that all up, right?
No, they're gonna have to pay an engineer and give us the design, and then we're gonna have to, they'll have to literally pay us to do inspections and stuff, because it's gonna be a lot of.
That was terrible.
I mean, it was designed as a borough road, we have the, concrete curves, because it has concrete curves.
So,
The intent was to take it over, there just wasn't supposed to.
yeah.
And it fell through for some reason, but.
And I'll do it on Google Maps and it looks. Well,
Yeah.
Where's this place?
It's definitely.
it's off. of-
It's on the roof run, it's like between two of the Franklin Ridge communities.
It's the end house from the golf
Oh,
course
Yeah,
across the street.
roughly, yeah.
They have $1 for.
Yeah, but the apartment complex, they're almost started in, and apparently it's a handful of days, a lot of frustrations. And so, you know, I think the owners, they were three of them, are interested in trying to figure something out.
That's newer than.
Yeah. We've heard complaints before about when our payments are going, it's on our road. And then now, I think they're realizing, you know, the complications that come with it owning the road. And, you know, the property owners have claims that they're willing to spend money, but get it up to our standards, but
Which one's it?
until they see the price tag.
They'll get it straight.
Is there condos?
There's single family homes there.
They're very old wood frame.
Yeah.
Wood sided windows, not. That's the church.
That's at the back though, there's two or three single family homes.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Because like the single family homes calls all the time about snow removal issues with the road, but it's still privately owned by.
So the people who own the apartment building own the
Own the
road.
road,
Got it.
And then there's somebody at the very end of that road too, who's, more than that.
Yeah.
And then there's a house at the beginning of the road, it's not in front of that either.
Yeah.
Right, so-
It's a mess. Yeah.
What are they starting?
Well, there were just lots of words listing there. And they felt conscious.
Big private
So-
roads.
Yeah, somebody probably owned all that property one time when they built that. Property, so like, different directions. But that's their risky list.
But if I get anything official, I'll get to the right channels.
This is not the first time that's been a request to.
Yeah.
I've never seen an engineering.
Real estate agent, like,
I just had this, you back up on. I'm surprised those you never. No, we're all done.
You know, it's usually about complain to complain about the units themselves and different things. He never would do anything. He recently sold it.
Things were as bad as they. I walk over.
don't say for that.
Okay, yeah, anything else? If not, we can go to executive session.